Lama Zopa's quote, we can mold our minds into any shape we like. So here we are on Valentine's Day, all loved up, I hope, in one way or another. It doesn't have to be with a partner. Yeah. So how is that making you feel? What's your day been like? So I'm going to start with a little meditation. We'll meditate for about 15 minutes, and then I'm hoping that we can get some, stuff coming forward and we can have some discussion. Okay. All right. So make yourselves truly comfortable, not so that you're going to fall asleep. Take some deep breaths and let the day just drift away so that you're totally present. And let's do a few rounds of mindfulness. So we stabilize the mind and have a look at those thoughts, but let them go. Time for analysis later. For now, just let them go. You've got an hour where you can truly consider what's going on for you. And can we come up with any ways of managing what's going on for you so that you can truly go away and be your own therapist? And maybe breathe in a little light if you're feeling drowsy, just up into your nostrils, down into your body, brightening yourself up, turning on that inner light bulb to just waken you up and keeping you focused. So let's just have a little glance back through our day. And we just, no matter how daft it seems, or inconsequential, or not what you normally think about, actually focus on today's thoughts. What's been going on for you? Have you been relaxed and chilled, loved up, praised, looked after? You've been busy? Was it productive, constructive? Were you caring for anyone or being cared for? Did you have any niggles, annoyances, irritations? Did you fall out with anyone? Are you suffering from anxiety or worries about something? Just play with those ideas, and I'll give you the space to formulate what's been dominant for you today. So what you're doing is you're sorting out the activities of your body and speech and linking them back to your mind. Was it a normal day? Was it a good day? Or was it a bad day? And do you know why? Any of those? Is there frustration, lethargy? Or are you coasting along quite happily? So just come back to your breath. And don't worry too much if there's vagueness around your thoughts. It'll come. Come back to your breath. Just try and sort out whether you felt that externals were the cause of your state of mind today. That may be in a good way or a difficult way. Who or what were you blaming, possibly? Or who or what were you thinking, it's because of them, it's been such a good day, or this? And just do a little movie in your head around that. Come back to the breath. And then look at your own mind. What were we doing with our minds that contributed to the feeling good or the feeling bad or whatever it was you were feeling? What kind of disturbing emotions or what kind of attitudes were helping you? Just really be honest with yourself. Come back to the breath. And then think, what do I need to do in order to mold my mind into the shape I'd wish it to be? Can you think of anything you could have done more constructively today? Or can you think of what you did today that you think, I wish I could do in the future? That's working. And then just finish with a little image of yourself. What would my genuine well-being look like on a day like today? Did it work? What would I like to just adjust a little bit? How am I doing? Okay. We're just going to end the meditation by thinking, oh, genuine well-being, may it be so for me. And relax when you're ready. Okay, so just a little patter from me. Just to say that really, you know, on an average day, we don't get the opportunity to kind of reflect back. But I think definitely as practicing Buddhists, it's a great thing to do at the end of the day, to just look back and think, oh, that went wrong, or that wasn't very skillful, or that was a bit mean. And equally, and definitely to do this, otherwise your self-esteem is under pressure to go, you did that well, that was nice, yeah? So that we get an equanimous view of ourselves, and we're not always kind of thinking, oh God, messed up again, because there is a tendency to go into that negative mind stream, which of course is why we practice Buddhist psychology. It's probably why most of us came into it, is because we recognized the nature of our minds and wanted to improve them. So that's really what that meditation is all about. If we can, not necessarily for 15 minutes, just for a few minutes before we go to bed, kind of think, I regret that. That was good. Pat on the back. Well done, me. And acknowledge any movement in the way your mind works. And actually that it's really useful to do this if you look back significantly. You know, if you look back a year or two, or maybe before you started knowing about the psychology of the mind, before you started working on it, and think and really kind of go, wow, I'm glad I found this. Yeah. Okay, so that's it from me. I'm hoping that, I mean, I could talk about stuff, but I'm hoping to get some feedback from you. I would love to hear from anybody about what they saw when they looked in their mind, not the exact experience, but what they're finding, what kind of emotions, what kind of stuff, were they feeling good about the day or not? So all those of you who are in the dark, that's fine. But if you want to speak, then you have to raise a little hand, yeah? And we need to see you. So is there anybody there who's going to contribute?
I'll go.
Thank you, Shayla. Thank you.
So I feel guilt because today is the day that my brother was born, and he is gone. And this is the day that my father died. And so wanting to celebrate Valentine's Day, I feel guilt. And I feel like maybe it's not something I should do for my mom, you know?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
You get what I'm saying? I feel guilt.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So are you asking a question or just sharing that feeling?
I'm sharing.
Yeah.
There really isn't anything we can do.
Well, guilt isn't positive, is it?
No.
So we got to move away from guilt, because guilt sits on you.
Mhm.
And every year there's going to be a Valentine's Day. Yeah. Is your mum still alive, Shayla?
She sure is.
Yeah. So how does she spend this day? She actually lost her son and her husband on this
Yes.
day. The
No.
same.
My brother was born on this day, and then her husband died on this day. So
So your brother's still alive? No.
no, he died.
I see. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So is there anybody here, because you're all experienced, it would be nice to have discussion rather than it coming from me. In terms of the guilt, thanks, Karen. I've got your message. Thank you. In terms of the guilt, what would your advice be to her, to Jayla? What would you say? I mean, it's totally understandable, but we're recognizing that guilt is destructive, and you could feel something else. What would that be? Anybody? Yeah, space.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, love.
Okay, I never know.
I know.
A couple of things. I did an ARP yoga class today, and the teacher said, we're going to love ourselves since it's Valentine's Day. And I thought, wow, it's why not? We were a bunch of old women, and I mean, obviously, Shayla, you didn't have anything to do with your brother's death or your dad's death. I don't know.
No, I get it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. What else? There was another point I had, but it's gone.
Do you want to? We'll come back to it. Okay,
Okay,
think about
sure.
it, and
You will love yourself.
yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, Valentine's Day has moved on a bit, since we all recognize that romances are so fleeting. or if they're not, it's just cutting out a whole load of the population who are on their own, yeah, or are young, or whatever, or have done it all. So this idea of loving oneself, I think there's a beautiful Derek Walcott poem which has been going the rounds on Valentine's Day. It got forwarded to me on Facebook. Where have you gone? Oh, there you are. And it's sort of look in the mirror, look in the mirror and see yourself and say, I've finally met you. You're wonderful. It's that kind of thing. And really, Jayla, I think you're full of love, and your mum must be so happy that you're still here. So in a way, it's that kind of feeling to nurture on this day is, thank goodness I'm here for mum. Yeah. And she's there for you. And maybe that is the relationship, that could be celebrated on this day. Yeah. That's an idea.
Why didn't I think of that?
Because I'll tell you why, because that guilt is a burden, and it blocks out everything else. So once it really only takes a moment to go, oh, there's a positive path, because we carry the destructive emotions so heavily, and they do block things out. So anyway, Barbara's got her hand up, which is great. And the other Barbara, so Barbara Burkhardt, I think, was first. So off you go.
I guess the thought that came to my mind is, Shayla, what would your father and your brother, how would they want you to feel today? And even your mom, I would think that they would want you to be happy and to not feel guilt. I don't know them, but that's what came to my mind, is how would they want you to feel on this day?
My brother wouldn't want it. My father would love it. Because I'm, he is the center of the universe. So
Thanks, Barbara. What about the other Barbara here? You got to unmute yourself. That's
Yeah.
it.
I have been working through some grief over the last years, and I started to sit back and think about what grief meant to me and why I felt it sometimes more and sometimes less. And I don't know if this speaks to anybody else, but for me, it's like I didn't have that person there to be connected with, and somehow the grief became like a proxy. It's like I was somehow paying like an homage to them by grieving, like
Yes.
over and over again.
Yeah.
And so not feeling that grief, it was like I couldn't win, because I either felt the grief or I was miserable, or I didn't feel the grief, and then suddenly I felt the guilt for not feeling the grief. And it was like somehow I was abandoning them or abandoning what they were to me. And I somehow got to the point of understanding that they would not expect me to do that penance, like, even especially since I didn't have anything to do with their death, and even if I had, it's like there is no burden that I have to carry that their life was and then wasn't. It's like, and just like those feelings of grief and guilt that kind of like wash over me at times, it's like I have to accept that somehow in the universe they came into my life and left, and so I've got to welcome all the emotions that I have over them, but I can't attach myself to that grief because it's of some service to their memory, because that's just not right. So that's all I think.
Thank you. That's very relevant. And of course, the Buddhist view, we mustn't forget this, is that, those beings have not stopped where you are. Yeah. They're gone doing their thing wherever. Yeah. So it's not, the Buddhist view is they're not non-existent. They had this life, the karma came to an end to be in this body, and now they are in whatever karmic body they will have created, and they won't remember you. That's the truth of it. It's a difficult reality. They won't remember you in a conscious way. Maybe somewhere deep on their subtle consciousness, they're carrying imprints of you, and at some time in a future life, who knows, you may meet again. You won't go, oh, you were my dad in that life. It won't be like that. It's just going to be some kind of, well, I feel like I'm comfortable with you, or I know you. So they move on, and us being stuck in this grief, which you described, Barbara, it is irrelevant in terms of Buddhism, because you're holding yourself in a place. So once the grieving process has, the loss of them and the sadness has worked its way out, it's important to move on, because it's actually an obstacle to compassion. We've been doing that recently, and it's, what we call a near enemy of compassion, because it feels like an okay thing to grieve. And grief is important, but if it goes on too long, it will go into depression. You'll never have room for anything else. So in that way, the guilt over it has to be really well, it's just got to be dumped, because it's really an obstacle to your compassion. And that's the practice of Buddhists, because we then get self-absorbed. You're certainly not helping them at all. It's you. It's all left with you. So thank you for that. Suzanne, you wanted to say something. Is it Suzanne or Susan? You have to unmute yourself, love.
Susan. Yeah,
That's
Susan.
it, right. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I hate to be a downer on Valentine's Day or on any day actually, but there's something that I'm bringing it up because I would like to hear what is the Buddhist view on how to emotionally deal with this. And that is the latest school shooting in the United States. And I'm a teacher, and every time this happens, it just devastates me. I get extremely down, and I can think of ways to feel better myself, but I can't stop thinking about the families and the children, the young people, the teenagers, the high school, the college students. And I cannot bring myself to believe that they brought this on themselves because of their past karma. I just can't do it.
No. Okay.
So that's it.
Okay. Well, that is a common question, and one that has been raised in our classes over the last couple of weeks. We've referred to this because our compassion is always for the victims. It comes easy. It comes easy because we see the pain, we see the suffering at the moment within our lives, and with this in our face, like the earthquake in Syria and Turkey, and those small children, whoever they are. It's like terrible. It feels awful. It feels wrong. So we have genuine compassion for them. We may give money, we may do whatever we can, as I'm sure your teaching organizations or your political parties or whatever are trying to do to overcome the root cause of the problem, which is guns. People wanting guns. But the way we deal with this in Buddhism is that, well, first of all, we apply the thought that we've all been circling in cyclic existence, what we call samsara, for eons. And karma is not about you're born a good person in this life and good things happen to you. We know that's not true generally because we see it's not true. So the understanding of karma is that the causes and conditions come together in your life for either what feels like a positive result or a negative result. And often a positive result, it's actually difficult to say good or bad karma, because a positive result, if we earn lots of money and we're beautiful and all the rest of it, and we seem to have, quite a nice hedonistic life, that seems positive. But if we're not getting the results of negative karma, it may actually stop us from learning, because we all know that it's when difficult things happen to us that we learn, that our compassion becomes great, that we want to do something, that we want to understand the nature of existence, which is what you're doing here, Susan, is why, what. So any perpetrator of something bad has got, if you truly understand the law of cause and effect in Buddhism, is they will get a result. It may not be in this lifetime, this tiny lifetime. And if you can but imagine that we have been circling for eons, then what that perpetrator does today is obviously a result of something in some past lifetime, not even necessarily this. although you may well find that the conditioning was such that that person became full of hatred and anger, yeah? But the result of this karma will definitely happen in the future. So how do we know that that perpetrator now in the future isn't going to be an innocent young child who gets shot? We don't know. We don't know what that perpetrator now is going to be, and when the causes and conditions come together for that result. But we never practice sort of feeling, well, good, I want them to get what's coming to them. We always just recognize that all beings in existence are suffering. They are all overcome by not understanding the nature of reality and the nature of who they are, and are all committing endless destructive thoughts, words and actions which will result in karma, because there's a karmic propensity which embeds itself in the consciousness. I am full of hatred. I am full of hatred. I will do this. And then a lot of them kill themselves because they actually, who they really hate is themselves. So we have a concept in Buddhism called the wisdom of emptiness. And the wisdom of emptiness is actually the antidote to that ignorance of not knowing. And it understands that there is nothing about us that is inherently existing. You know, I am a collection of thoughts and this body, and I am labeled Ondy, but I'm impermanent and I'm changing all the time. And once we start understanding that nature of reality, and that everything we externally hate or blame doesn't really exist from its own side, until we understand that, we keep making the same mistakes. So it's, and I'm superficially skating over this, you know, it's deep, it's very deep, but I hope I've given you some way of recognizing that the understanding of karma isn't mean. You know, it's not looking and saying, well, you know, that those kids must have done something wrong, because it's not those children, it's whatever or whoever or whatever happened to them in some distant past, and somehow the karma has ripened for this to end their lives and cause suffering to their families. Because karma, you know, it's not just black and white. It affects everybody. Think of how many beings in the world. It's not just 8 billion humans. I mean, I can't even remember the number of all the animals. And then, of course, we see that there are other realms of existence. There's immeasurable number of beings in the world. It's vast. It's vast. So that's probably put you off Buddhism for life, hasn't it, Susan? So much simpler to have God and heaven and hell, isn't it? But what do you think? Are you getting the idea?
Not
Or do you?
really. No,
No.
I don't, I can't grasp it. I just can't.
No, okay. I have to leave you with it. Maybe, but you're here tonight. So if you're interested in Buddhism, maybe you need to dig a bit deeper and you know, attend some other stuff and get some ideas about it. Because what will happen, Susan, and this is the main thing that will affect your life, is if, like Barbara was talking about, you know, you're struggling with this grief and this despair, a sort of nihilistic view of the world's a terrible place, everything's wrong, yeah, then that will act as a blockage to your compassion, and you will suffer very deeply, but not necessarily manage to help. So just be aware of that. I mean, you're doing a good job, you're a teacher, but somehow you've got to get through that darkness in order to offer some light, and that is the way to combat such a terrible deed, is to get the light out there, because it's just darkness everywhere.
Yeah, I have been studying Buddhism for about 20 years and practicing it, and
Okay.
and Buddhist psychology has helped me very, very much.
Where have you gone?
But when
There.
there is a mass shooting every day
Yeah.
in a country, there's something really wrong, and it's grappling with what do we do? How do we?
Well, the problem is that we are living, the Buddha taught this about the different times in which we live. And we've entered a degenerate age. And a degenerate age means that people will be overcome by destructive values, consumerist, there'll be, a hedonistic approach to life. And we know that that's rife, yeah? So there is nothing else better for you to do than to keep being a good person and loving and having compassion and practicing emptiness as well. Because we need as many people as possible to do this. Because we're not all like that person or the people who are supporting this terribly destructive way of being. I mean, it's a very difficult time, isn't it?
Yes, thank you. That helps. Thank you.
Okay, because I can't relax unless I've helped a little bit. And when you said you've been practicing Buddhism for 20 years, I thought, oh, okay, I should have just kept my mouth shut. Oh dear. Okay, thank you very much. I agree. Oh, yeah, okay. We've still got time. Space.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, very well.
Okay, I've been having a hard time in my life finding a place that I can live in that's inexpensive and doesn't have a lot of chemicals. Anyway, I totally forgot about Valentine's Day. I have a gorgeous wife. We don't live together, but we have a wonderful relationship. And I just forgot about it. And last night I was watching Democracy Now! And oh, it's V-Day. It's 1 billion rising. It has nothing personal to do with me, but to see the person who started the City of Joy, which was for women in the Congo who've been raped as part of war so badly that they don't even have insides hardly. And this Evangeline went there 25 years ago, and it's going fine. And there's women all over the world who are rising up.
Yes.
Change their lives, our lives.
Yes.
And that's such a different way of looking at Valentine's Day.
And
about these terrible things that out of which comes such a wonderful thing.
yeah. And I think you've really touched on something important here, that no matter how terrible a thing happens, with history and with time, there seems to be a rising up and a rebellion against that, and good comes out. So, you've kind of brought to mind the light there, which will probably help Susan as well, because it is true. but it needs time. And there is a rising up of women now.
Sure.
A genuine rising up, and a genuine rising up of all kinds of new attitudes, which people will hate. They will hate it because they're frightened. Their egos are absolutely threatened by change. Threatened by change. And that's the concept of impermanence, as well as they don't get it. They don't get that change is necessary and change is good. And their egos are completely, "Oh, what's going on?" Yeah. So it's a great point. Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay. Any other? Oh, Kim. Little golden hand in the corner. Hello, Kim. That's
Hello,
it.
Ondy. Always
Kim.
nice to see you.
Hmm.
Well, I'm going to lighten things up maybe a bit by saying
Great.
I've had an incredibly beautiful day spent with my husband of 41 years, so of which I'm very grateful. And I guess I would just ask you for your insights on the commitments, a commitment to a relationship without it becoming or leading to over attachment. Do you have any thoughts? I mean, be it a partner, a spouse, a family member, a friend, there's always that line of wanting to really sincerely commit to a relationship without leading to excessive attachment. Does
Well,
that make sense?
yeah, it does, Kim. But I think because you have that awareness, you'll be working with that anyway, you know. And as lay practitioners, many of us will be in relationships, and the best kind of relationship is a committed relationship.
Mhm.
You know, and if you're both committed and you're both content and being well treated within that relationship, then it's to be honored and admired, you know.
Mhm.
There's sutras on how to be a family person, and one is to, you know, be loyal.
Mhm.
And the basic premise is not to cause suffering. So if you're doing that as to the best of your ability, and you're aware of attachment, you
Mhm.
know, you just go, well, you know, I love this guy, you know, we're partners in this difficult life, but I know that it's impermanent. I know that,
Mhm.
you know, it's for a certain time. And also you have other things going on.
Mhm.
Because that's one of the problems with committed relationships, is that they can get a bit, what's the word? Sort of introverted towards each other. So they only get pleasure from each other. Yeah. And then if one of them leaves or somebody dies, then the other one is absolutely half a person. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
You want to stay a whole person. You want to have your own identity, but I'm pretty sure you'll be doing that. And I rejoice. That's fantastic. 41 years. Lovely.
Thank you, Ondy.
Any other comments on that? About attachment and relationships?
Yeah, recently, it was kind of explained to me, like, when you're in a relationship, it's more important than what you can give them and not what you can get from the relationship. And that's how you know you're not getting attached. The attachment is what can I get from this person? How can they make me happy? And to avoid that, it's how can we make them happy? What can I do for them to avoid getting attached?
Where
Mhm.
are you? She's in the opposite corner now. That's a lovely answer, isn't it? Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. But the balance to that is that I love it, Kevin, and you're absolutely right. What I give, you know, what can I give? But we also, and I know this isn't happening to you from the way you talk, but in some relationships, you can feel and I have met this with people who misunderstand Buddhism a bit, is that they're just, well, I'm trying to make them happy. I'm trying to make them happy, trying not to cause them suffering. I don't say anything because I don't want to a row. And then you end up being a bit of a victim of your own practice. Yeah. So you do need to recognize what you need to grow and that you're not being a doormat. Simple as that. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin. Yeah. How are we doing? Anything else coming up in the old mind? How did that meditation go when you looked back at the day? Did you find it easy or difficult to spot what your mind gets up to? I'm interested.
Hi,
Hi,
Ondy.
Dawn. Hi.
I was I had many positive things in my mind today, and
Right.
then I also have a lot of attachment. So it's like clear. It was clear in the meditation, sort of tracking my attachment. You know,
Okay.
but like I notice with like, relationship, like, and you're just talking about this, if I can't help the person to feel better, I see that attachment as well, like
Yes.
and sort of then the aversion or sadness that
Yes.
brings, so I guess what I've been trying to practice is just not like today. I noticed I would damper my sort of excitement and then also resist sort of feeling bad or sad about something. So as the pendulum swings like that, what back to your original question about how the meditation, what we'd like to work on, I was feeling like to like, hopefully I'll be able to be aware more in the moment. For me,
Yes.
after at the end of the day, it's a little bit easier, and then I regret the things that I missed. But to have some awareness with equanimity of my own sort of wave between those.
Yeah.
Either if I'm excited with attachment or I'm, the opposite of that with aversion, so.
I've got you. I think it's quite interesting to think of attachment in terms of, we want to fix things. We want to be the fixer in a family. You want the kids, and you keep going until things are right for them and you can't settle. And that is a kind of attachment to a way of being, that I'm responsible, and unless everybody's happy, I'm not happy. Yeah. Which is a wonderful view, because it's kind of a bodhisattva view, but actually in our daily lives, why we can't do that without the swings and roundabouts of attachment and aversion is because we are attached to being the person who makes it all work. So, and it's huge relief when you go, okay, well, I've done my bit, I made a nice dinner or whatever, he's still in the mood. And, that's him. That's his responsibility. I stop there. And then that's actually letting go of attachment to being the person that makes people happy. I think it may well be, well, I mean, maybe, I don't know, but I see it in a lot of women, mothers, definitely, but I'm sure it's there for both.
I relate with that, with just being the good girl, like in the family, as in the my family of origin, and then
It's
you know,
conditioning. Yeah, conditioning.
but it's a good part. Like I know I feel the healthy parts of that sometimes,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
the part of that, you know. So, and that it's related to the attachment to it, you know.
Yeah. It is. It's just recognizing the attachment and then keeping the good girl there. And, you know, you do want people to be happy, but you can only do so much. And then it's up to them. Yeah. Or it's up to the circumstances. Can't make everything right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Thank-
you. How are we doing? Any more?
I think that's a very profound idea. That's a real insight for me.
Good.
So thank you. Yeah, that was, don't, we can be attached to things that we aren't anticipating that we would get attached to, like being the one that creates this blanket happiness for others, or, you know.
Yeah, and even the situation you mentioned, Susan, is like somehow we get attached to the idea of how everything should be.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be like this. It shouldn't. That shouldn't be. This should. That word should. And it's like, well, I'm only one of billions and billions and billions, and I can do my thing to the best of my ability. And actually, if I do, I will become Buddha, and then I can really get to helping all of those out there. But yeah, I think we're kind of there, unless there's anybody else got anything else to say. Maybe we can just enter a few minutes of mindfulness and just clarify what we're taking away. I think that's useful. So everybody mute yourself, and then we'll just spend the last couple of minutes taking a few deep breaths, first of all. Letting go, noticing in your contribution, or you're sitting there, whether there's been anything that's agitated you or made you feel joyful. And really strongly identify something that you can take away to help yourself. I just feel a sense of real joy that you attended, that you've got something, and that we helped each other. There you go. There's the love. Dawn said to me earlier today, it's Galentine's Day. Yeah? I don't know how you do that with boys. Anyway, boys as well, because we've got a few. So just finish your meditation. Feel very happy that we've shared all this. Dedicate the merits. And as Rinpoche would say, whatever you do, think bodhicitta, bodhicitta, bodhicitta. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shayla. And a little word about next week, because this is my last Be Your Own Therapist in Santa Fe. I'm sure it will continue once I get back home. But next week we're having, it's Losar, Tibetan New Year. And we always remember Buddha Shakyamuni and do a puja. So we'll be doing that next week instead. Yeah. Okay, so it's been really nice being here in Santa Fe doing this, and hope to see you all again soon and have a lovely evening.